In this lesson, we'll learn how to import maps into Mari, as well as export our maps out of Mari. All right, great. So if you want to go ahead and open up the Lesson 29 Begin file, you'll be able to start exactly where I am right now. So what I've done here is I've gone ahead and taken our base layer in our emissive map for the body, and I've filled it with black. We can see that if I come in here and just take a look at the current paint target. Now you can see that layer on the body is entirely filled with black. So it's important, if you're going to be working in Mari, to know how to get maps into and take maps out of Mari. So let me just jump back over to my shader by holding down the I key to bring up my channel pop-up. Now when it comes to this emissive map, we can import this in a couple of different ways. We can come over here to the channels palette and simply right click on the emissive channel, and we can come over here to import. Now if we're wanting to get this map in, we can import it in as a new channel or as a new layer into the layer stack. Now if we don't want to import it in as a new layer, maybe we just want to import it onto this existing layer. Let's go ahead and right click on the layer itself, and we'll come over here and choose to import, and I'll just say import into layer. So we'll go ahead and do that, and it's going to bring up this dialog right here, and let me just go ahead and browse to where I've saved this in my project files for this course. So it'll be in the referenced files folder under this body_emissive folder. And you can see here I have an emissive .@.tiff. So we'll go ahead and select that here. You'll see that it brings in the template, and you can see here that it says resize, and we have the option to resize patches or images. So I'm just going to choose to import this onto all patches. So if I go ahead and say that here, you can see Mari goes ahead and drops that texture that I exported out already onto this previously created base layer. So it's that easy to get a map into Mari. Now, more importantly, let's take a look at how we can begin to get our maps out of Mari. So let's take something more complex than just a single layer here. I'm going to go ahead and jump over to my layer stack for the diffuse textures on the body. And there was quite a few layers here, if you remember. So basically, if we wanted to export our maps out of Mari, in previous versions of Mari, you had to do something known as baking the shader. Well, now with Mari 2.0, there's no such thing as baking the shader anymore. Remember, the shader is purely there to plug in your maps so you can view them all at the same time. So we're going to be exporting our maps out of Mari a little bit differently. All we need to do here, I'm just going to come in and right click on, actually let's go ahead and jump over to our diffuse channel here. You can see we can right click on this and choose to export. We can export the current channel, we can export all channels, and we can export everything. Or we can choose to export flattened. Now, obviously, we don't need all of these layers if we're going to be plugging these texture maps into our primary 3D application. We need to flatten them down so that we have a single image to work with. So I'm going to choose to export flattened here, and we'll choose export current channel flattened. You can see there are a couple of other options for exporting all channels flattened or everything flattened. So if we select export current channel flattened, we're going to get this dialog here. Now I'm going to go ahead and just jump in, and we'll save this into the body_diffuse folder that I saved into that referenced files folder. Now it's important to understand that there is a template here. So the default template inside of Mari is $channel.$UDIM. So what that's going to do is it's going to give each particular TIFF that's created the channel name the UDIM number. So obviously we're going to have a different file created for each patch in our project. So Mari's going to go ahead and create a different file for each channel and patch. So obviously we're just dealing with one channel right now, so we should have diffuse dot and the corresponding UDIM number .tiff here. So, and we're going to choose to use this template for everything. We can also come in and choose it to use it only for this layer, but since we are exporting our information flattened, we're not going to worry about that right now. Small textures is going to allow Mari to conserve some space for areas maybe on a patch that doesn't have any paint information. So we'll go ahead and leave that there. And alpha channels is going to allow Mari to export out any kind of of alpha that we have built into our texture maps. It shouldn't have any alpha in the diffuse textures for this particular object, so I'm going to go ahead and select Export All Patches here. Mari's going to go through the process of exporting those. Now, that's a pretty quick process because those particular patches weren't very large. Now at this point, let me go ahead and jump over here into Explorer, and I'll go ahead and show you that Mari has created the patches for that information, or that the corresponding files for the diffuse information on the body object. So you can see here we've got diffuse.1001.tiff, diffuse.1002.tiff, and diffuse.1003.tiff. Now let's take a look at that 1003 patch really quickly. We'll just jump over to our UV view and kind of scroll over, and you can see that the diffuse information for this really only contains a single color. I don't have any detail painted on this because the detail for these particular objects here, if I go ahead and select that patch, you can see here that, let me just make sure I have just that patch selected. Go into patch mode. There we go. You can see that that patch contains the spikes, and all the detail for the spikes was in the emissive map. It's not in the diffuse texture. So that's why Mari actually only gives us this single pixel, basically, of information for that diffuse.1003 UDIM. Basically, that's it conserving space. We checked that option when we exported those textures. So now at this point, let me come over here and let's take a look at layers, because we also have the ability to export layers. So I've got the dirt layer selected on our diffuse layer stack right now. Let me just go ahead and right click on that and come over to export. So again, here we have a few options to choose from. If we wanted to export just this selected layer, we could choose to do that. Or we could choose to export all of the layers in this particular layer stack. Again, we have the option to export flattened as well. You can see export selected layers flattened. If we had more than one layer selected, maybe we want to do that. Or we could export all of our layers flattened. So again, selected layers, if I wanted to come in and select maybe these top 3 layers by holding down the Shift key, I could export just those layers flattened out. So lots of different exporting and importing options here inside of Mari. So let's go ahead and export one more map out of Mari really quickly here. Let's come over and maybe export our bump map. So I'll just select the bump channel over in my channels palette, right click on that and choose to export flattened, and we'll export the current channel flattened. And when this comes up, let's go ahead and we'll just go up a level here, and I'll create a new folder. We'll call this body underscore bump. All right, there we go. We'll go and double click on that folder to go into it. And again, we're going to leave the template the exact same. So again, you saw what that template looked like. If we wanted to, we could come in and modify that template. Maybe we need the object name in the naming scheme as well. Whatever your pipeline requires, feel free to come in and experiment with the template some. So we'll go ahead and use this template for everything. And again, enable our small textures. We saw what that did. And we'll go ahead and keep any kind of alpha that is included in these textures. We'll go ahead and choose to export all patches, but notice again we have options to just export selected patches if we wanted to maybe export just a map for one particular patch or 2 particular patches, however many we have selected. So we'll go ahead and export all patches here. All right, great. And we'll come back over here, take a look at our information. And there are our bump maps for the body object. So this is how you're going to get your maps into and out of Mari. In this lesson, we've learned how to both import our maps into Mari as either a channel or as layer information. And we've also learned how to export out flattened information as well as individual layer information. All right, great. So with that said, we've got one more lesson left. We're going to go ahead in the next lesson and learn about how we can archive our Mari projects.